Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am back with another spooky cup tutorial for you. This is a super cute sort of kid style cup using some of Jenn's inks and of course some decals from Creative Fabrica. So everything I use in today's tutorial, as always, will be listed and linked down in the description box down below. You'll even find discount codes for lots of products that I like to use in my everyday crafting world, so check that out as well. Before you leave, give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so today we are starting with this cute little 14-ounce kids cup from Craft Haven, and I've already spray painted the cup white. We're going to be using a glitter called Radioactive. This is from Glitter Makes It. There's a discount code for Glitter Makes It down in the description box to save you 30% off glitters from their shop. So I'm going to be doing a layer of Mod Podge here to adhere my glitter. So this is a chunkier glitter, Radioactive. It does have some kind of chunky silver like reflective pieces, as well as some translucent pieces and some fine, but most of the mix is chunky. So I'm gonna lay down a little bit of a thicker layer of glue on my tumbler to ensure that I get enough of the glitter to cover all of the space that I'm trying to get, so I'll get really good coverage. So I'm just gonna make sure I have a really good kind of base coat of that Mod Podge here, so I can just do one coat of glitter. We're then going to take the glitter, and of course we're going to make sure we get full coverage on the cup here as best that we can. And since we're using a pretty chunky glitter here, you guys know that using chunky glitter sometimes can be difficult when it comes to epoxying. So the way to make sure that you don't have any issues with your glitter when you are using chunky in your epoxy layers and not have to do a lot of sanding is to make sure to kind of smush or push down and flatten all of that glitter. So I'm going to clean up my space here, and then I'm going to show you how I like to kind of smush or pat down my glitter. There's a couple ways that you can do this, but this seems to be my favorite way to do this. So I'm going to grab a piece of parchment paper, and I'm going to lay that on my space in front of me. Then I'm going to take my cup, and I'm just going to lay it flat on the paper here. And then I'm going to very carefully roll the parchment paper on over the cup rather, kind of flatten it and smooth everything out. And then I'll go back in, since this has a curve, and kind of use my hand in kind of a cupped motion to help pat down any of the glitter that may be sticking up on that bottom portion. You could also do this by just ripping off a small piece of parchment paper and patting it down with just that kind of as your coverage, or using a gloved hand. That works as well, depending on what method you're using, either Mod Podge or epoxy method, to be able to get that chunky glitter patted down. I focus really on that bottom portion to make sure I don't have any sharp edges along the bottom edge. Once my Mod Podge is dry, so about 40 minutes to an hour, I am going to go in with my first coats of epoxy here. So I've mixed up about 30 mLs of epoxy. I'm going to use as much of this as I can, but I probably will use closer to 20 on the first coat. And then I'm going to get this kind of covered onto the tumbler here. So I know I don't always include epoxying, so I wanted to make sure to include that in this since I haven't showed it in a while, but this is kind of my method for smoothing epoxy on a tumbler. To each their own, whatever works best for you. I know a lot of people like to either dip their fingers. Sometimes people will use brushes. I'm kind of like a one finger, but also kind of my full hand type situation. So whatever works for you. I'm going to get that first layer on, torch that, and then put a second coat on in 4 hours. After my second layer of epoxy, I'm going to go in with sanding. So this is still a glitter or a cup that has chunky glitter. So I still am going to have a few pieces of glitter that have kind of stuck up, but definitely not as much glitter as if I didn't go in and wrap this in parchment paper first. So I'm going to take a 60 grit sanding block to the entire cup, especially that bottom rim where you get a lot of kind of rough edge. I'm going to take a 60 grit sanding block to the whole cup, and then use my nail file tool to get a nice clean rim of stainless steel exposed at the top that will help our final layers of epoxy stick to and adhere to the tumbler. So once I've gotten this sanded and I have that nice fine line of stainless steel, I'll go back in with my 60 grit sanding block and then clean this up with 91% rubbing alcohol so we can get into the next step. Okay, so now for the fun part, of course, designing. So I've taken some of Jenn's Crafted Gems inks. This is her original pack, and I have 3 colors. I have the yellow, which is Harvest Moon. I have the orange, which is Flamethrower, and then a purple, which is TPOG. So I didn't have a real idea as to what I wanted to do with these colors, so I kind of just ended up going with a swirl. And I'm also going to say that this was not my original idea. I have applied alcohol ink over glitter before, but typically I do that at the raw glitter stage. I actually got this idea from Jessica Flynn. She posted a tutorial not that long ago doing sort of a alcohol ink tumbler but over this glitter after layers of epoxy, and I just loved how bright the colors really turned out, as well as how much of that sparkle and shine of the glitter underneath you could see through these beautiful inks. So I'm kind of taking that and putting my own spooky spin on that, and so I've gone in with my orange, which is Flamethrower, first, and now I'm going to go back in on one side of Flamethrower and apply Harvest Moon, which is the yellow. I'm kind of going for a kind of like fall spooky type vibe. I actually used these same 3 colors, not these exact inks, but these same 3 colors for a fall skull design that I did last fall, that I really loved. And so I've really always loved these 3 colors together. Once we get into like that fall spooky season, these 3 colors are always what I tend to gravitate to. So once I feel like I'm done with both the yellow and the orange, I'm going to move on to purple. So Jenn's inks are super pigmented, so you definitely want to be mindful and thoughtful when it comes to that. Definitely less is more when it comes to using her inks, unless you're going to be diluting them a lot using rubbing alcohol to kind of make them look a little bit lighter. I am going to go in with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, but not so much that it's really going to dilute them so much. I kind of wanted them all to stand out. That way I could use the rubbing alcohol to my advantage to be able to try and blend some of those harsh lines in between all 3 of the colors. So I'm going to finish up here with these 3 alcohol ink colors, kind of covering all the white parts of the tumbler, making sure to not forget the butt or the bottom of your cup as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab some rubbing alcohol so we can do a little bit of blending just to make these colors to kind of blend a little bit better together. So I have 91% rubbing alcohol in my water bottle here, and I'm just going to give this a few good sprays here. And you'll notice as I start to spray this, you'll see that the alcohol ink starts to kind of expand and kind of create these really pretty cells, which I absolutely love. The alcohol ink does this when you apply it with alcohol or apply alcohol to it. And so I'm going to use this time and kind of the moisture that the alcohol creates on the cup to be able to take a clean makeup wedge to clean up my lines. So I want to make sure I don't have super harsh lines in between each color. So I'm just going to take that dry and fresh makeup wedge to just help me kind of blend and kind of blur up those lines there so they don't look so obvious when it changes from color to color. So I'm going to give this a couple good sprays and kind of until I find it's to the likeness that I want. And I'm not really looking for a total blend, but I am looking for a general blend. That way we can go ahead with the next steps in our cup design. So after I've done the alcohol ink application and kind of blurred and muddled my lines a little bit, I'm going to let this dry. So I let it dry for about 30 to 45 minutes, and I'm going to go straight in and take a risk and go straight in with the power wash method. So you guys have seen me do this before. I'm going to apply the Dawn power wash and then spray flat black spray paint over top of that, and this is kind of the final look there. I did get a little bit of runoff from the inks because I don't think I let them dry long enough, so I did get a little runoff, but I do still love how bright the inks still are, which is such a huge advantage when it comes to using Jenn's inks versus other inks that I've used on the market. So now that that is done, I'm going to go ahead and do 1 coat of epoxy, and I'm going to create a bleach spot using flat white spray paint and put a layer of clear gloss spray paint over top. So while I'm waiting for my bleach spot to dry, I did print out this decal that I got from Creative Fabrica on some clear water slide. So I'm going to take that outside and spray that with 3 good coats of clear gloss spray paint. Now we're back to our cup, and here is kind of the look of the spray paint or bleach spot that I've created. So just using flat white spray paint, applying just kind of a couple spurts in the general area of where my decal is going to go. And so now we're going to use a combination of acetone and alcohol to get this cleaned up remove a lot of that overspray, and really just trying to form a nice section, even area of where we're going to apply the decal over top. So starting with acetone, because acetone is really going to quickly remove my paint, I'm going to start with that to really shape up most of the area that my image is going to go over, and make sure that I have kind of a general shape, if you will, for the spot that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be focusing on the top curve of the cup. So I want to remove all the spray paint that ended up below that area. Because this cup is so small, obviously it makes it a little bit more challenging to get your spray paint into one general area without taping off. You could tape off if you wanted to, but remember, when you're taping off versus just going in and cleaning up later, is you're going to have very harsh lines. So if you want a super square box, you definitely could tape off and then cover the rest in saran wrap and have that kind of box shape. You also could use a method that I've used in a previous tutorial before, where you also cut the image as an SVG on white vinyl and apply the water slide over top. So whatever works for you. I typically go with the bleach spot method just because I find that it works the best for me. It is a little bit more tedious because there's a lot of work that you have to do as far as cleaning up, but I like to take that extra step just because I feel like it looks the best in my opinion. So after I've cleaned up everything up with acetone, I'm going to go back over that whole section with alcohol, and that's going to clean up any of that cloudiness that the acetone left behind with the spray paint, and make sure that I have a really beautiful and a clean sort of bleach spot to work with. Okay, so now we're going to add some decals before we do the water slide, which probably will be the final piece that we apply to the cup. So these are some spider webs that I got from Creative Fabrica, and kind of just chose the ones that I liked, and I have cut using Tech Wrap Craft vinyl. This is their holographic. I think it's an orange to yellow shift. I do have a code down in the description box if you'd like to purchase from techwrapcraft.com. You can certainly use that code down in the description box. You guys know that I did a tutorial last week just showing some of the vinyls that they sent me, and I really do love how easy it is to weed Tech Wrap Craft vinyl. I did cut this using the Cricut setting holographic vinyl. That's typically what I do for this style vinyl, but I do love how easy it weeds and how easy it is to work with, because sometimes, depending on what vinyl you're using, you guys know that when you're cutting really small decals like this, it can be pretty difficult sometimes. So of course I'm not going to make you watch me sort of watch this or weed this entire section, but I'm just going to get all of these weeded, and then I'm going to apply them to the cup. So I end up going back, and you're going to see me also, after I apply these orange holographic ones, go back and apply black spider webs to the cup as well. I do wish that I would have made the holographic ones a little bit larger. I definitely think I shortchanged myself and should have did a little bit of better measuring on my end to make sure that they were large enough. I didn't feel like, after I put these all on, I didn't feel like they were big enough. So I went back and cut black ones on just regular black vinyl and applied those as well, but larger. So of course I will have all of the kind of measurements of all the webs that I use, just general measurements that you guys can use if you're recreating these. Obviously, if you're using a larger cup, you're going to need larger webs, a larger decal, etc. But if you're choosing to do the exact same design method on the exact same cup design and style, I'll also make sure to link the exact sizes that I use for each of the decals that you can recreate this and make it your own. So I'm going to finish applying these orange holographic spider webs here, and then we're going to go right back in and we're going to apply a set of black ones as well over top and in between some of those open areas that are still exposed on the cup. So now, of course, we're ready to do the final decal, which is going to be this Spooky Squad water slide that I've cut or printed. So I have just cut that out of my water slide paper, and I've applied a little bit of water to my cup. You guys have seen me do water slides before, so I'll kind of walk you through this a little bit quickly. So I do have lukewarm water in my kind of cup there that I submerged my water slide in. I'm going to gently slide that onto the cup and then make sure I have it centered and that it looks good before I start to squeegee any of want the water out. Once I feel like the decal looks good, I'm going to then just grab a coffee filter and very gently press down on the decal just to remove any excess water. I won't go in with final coats of epoxy until this is completely dry, but then I'll do 2 final coats of epoxy to get this finished. So as always, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, definitely give this video a huge thumbs up and maybe leave me a comment down below on what you'd like to see me create next. So you guys know that I'll see you in the next one. See you soon.